Welcome back to American Medicine Today. So, a Los Angeles school district recently lost a court battle against employees who sued after being unjustly terminated for refusing to receive the COVID vaccine. Joining us to discuss is Leslie Manookian, president and founder of the Health Freedom Defense Fund, one of the groups who were part of the suit. Thank you for joining us, Leslie.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me today.
So give us a little bit of background on the case. Over 1,000 teachers were fired over refusing the vaccine shot. Is that correct?
Well, it's close. They fired for sure about 500, and then they displaced, meaning pushed into early retirement or forced onto unpaid leave. Another at least 500 is to our knowledge. It's very hard to get the numbers because they are not disclosing them. But we do know that they have in total, fired or displaced over 1,000 people is what our understanding is.
Wow.
I think this will be the first of many that we're going to see, from airlines to law enforcement to healthcare
military
workers.
Yes.
It was a precedent that we have never seen before, where employees in general were told, get a shot or you're gone. But some people stood up and said, hell no, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this case is really unique to all the other cases that are out there because we are really pushing the court to make a decision to reconcile disparate Supreme Court rulings. In 1905, there was a court ruling that said that the government, so a city or a locale, could implement a vaccine mandate in extreme cases like smallpox, where there's a 30% death rate, or they could find people. It never said that a needle could be plunged into your arm, but this has been used to justify mandates. The Supreme Court has ruled that we all have a zone of privacy around our bodies, and that we can decline medical interventions even if they might be life-saving. LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District, and other employers are using this super old Supreme Court case to justify these mandates, but all the more recent jurisprudence says that you can't do that. And so we want the courts to rule on this. The LAUSD case, the district court felt that it was for a higher court to make this ruling than for herself. And then the LAUSD sued over attorney's fees, and that is what was denied. So they tried to get $209,000 of attorney's fees from us.
So the actual school district not only fired all of these people, but then turned around and tried to sue them to get their own legal fees back in the amount of over $200,000. That's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worse than that because they lied. Okay. We've sued the Los Angeles Unified School District twice. First, in the spring of 2021, they issued a mandate for the emergency use authorized COVID shot, and we sued. And they rescinded their mandate the following day. LAUSD represented through its attorneys to the court that it did not have and was not intending to issue a mandate. So the judge dismissed that first case and said, listen, there's no longer a mandate. There's no issue here. I'm going to dismiss it without prejudice. You can bring it again if you want. Literally 2.5 weeks later, LAUSD issued a mandate. Issued a mandate for all employees. We actually filed again and sued them again. We learned that they had lied to the court when they said that they weren't intending to issue a mandate, because during depositions, they told us that they were drafting a mandate in early July of 2021. So they were telling the court that they weren't doing it at the exact same time that they were drafting a mandate. And our attorneys submitted affidavits to that effect, and the court smacked them down rightly because they are not acting honorably. They are not honest.
And what happens to some of these employees? Are they going to be rehired? Are they going to be paid back pay? What's going on?
Well, ultimately, that's what we hope, Kimberly. We hope that they will be reinstated if we can triumph. The Supreme Court's recent rulings are very, very clear that you have a zone of privacy, that you have this right to bodily autonomy, that it's a sacred right. And therefore, this mandate should be struck down as illegal. And they need to issue this ruling because we don't want them to do this again. But we do have oral arguments scheduled for this case in September at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in Seattle in, I think it's the second week of September. So we are very, very optimistic about that.
Weren't some of these people supposed to be allowed if they had religious beliefs or certain exemptions?
People exercised their free will and their religious beliefs in applying for or claiming a religious exemption. Some people also claimed a medical exemption for medical reasons. LAUSD School District literally approved of these exemptions, and then they would say, but we will not accommodate your religious beliefs. And that is a violation of law, unless their religious belief or claim interferes with their ability to do their job. And here's the other thing that's really, really sickening about this all, is that all of the students have not been required to get the jab because 5,000 parents fought back when the school district tried to issue a mandate for their children and said no. And so they backed down. And the kicker of this whole thing is that the CDC acknowledged July 27th of 2021 that the shots do not stop transmission or infection.
Correct.
Well, if that's the case, then there simply is zero public health justification for requiring anybody to get this shot. It has to be a private matter.
From what I understand, one of the arguments that was made by the plaintiffs, the COVID jabs should be considered therapeutics and are not true vaccines. Therefore, it should not be mandated that they need it.
The CDC issued guidance on the 27th of July of 2021 that the shots don't stop transmission or infection, meaning that they don't create immunity in the person. They do not elicit a sustained immune response that prevents you from getting sick or transmitting something to someone else. And if that's the case, then they're no different than taking an aspirin or any other kind of a therapeutic into which the state, and LAUSD is an arm of the state, cannot intrude. And the Supreme Court's been very clear that that's the case. LAUSD is trying to claim that this is about Jacobson, this old case from 1905. But the truth is, it's not. The scientists from Stanford and other esteemed, I think Yale was one of the other scientists who submitted affidavits for us, that the science does not support that these shots stop transmission or infection, and the CDC itself admits it.
Right. And so they should do what they've been saying. Follow the science.
Yeah.
So thank you, Leslie Manookian, for heading this up and trying to make some headway against this school district and get those people back to work, get them their money, and don't allow them to bulldoze over their employees.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you so much for having me. That's what we hope will happen. So stay tuned. All the best.
That wraps up this episode. Make sure you check out Rumble and search American Medicine Today for previous episodes. We'll see you back here next week on Newsmax.